Hey, it's Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Unwritten. Today I have Kyle Martin here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for hosting.
I know you're from Reedsburg area, but you're kind of a staple artist in the area, would you say?
I think so. I think every artist is local to somewhere,
Right, yeah.
and it's very nice to be thought of as a staple artist in the area.
I mean, Bear was amazing.
Oh my, it's the best place on earth.
First off, I'm going to say why I invited you here. There's a couple of reasons, but first is that my brother is your neighbor of sorts, and he actually gave you a picture, and then you painted the picture of my dad's tractors, and now my parents have your painting on their wall.
It is a small world.
Small world.
I saw your brother this morning driving the big tractor with the manure spreader attached to the back.
Living his best life, right?
That's right.
He loves it. He's always loved tractors.
Well, it's a perfect fit for him. It is good. I think that, well, you think about the old time farmers after they retire, they just drive through the countryside and still look at everybody else's operation, probably wishing that they were still doing it.
Yeah. There's a lot of, are there still a lot of old time farmers in the Rock Springs area, or has it been kind of taken over by bigger corporations? And
I think that they're still around. The push is, of course, to go bigger and more production and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
When we were farming, it was a very small dairy operation. We milked 30 cows, and we did it the old-fashioned way, meaning there was no pipeline system. We would carry milk from the milker to the bulk tank, and it was...
So you did it by hand?
We didn't milk by hand. We had milkers.
Yeah.
And then we would dump that milk into a bucket and carry that over to the milk tank.
Okay.
There was no pipeline that the milk would run through
Right.
the bulk tank.
So I grew up on a smaller farm, not dairy, but our neighbors were dairy farmers. So we lived through watching the farms shut down.
Mm.
Not a lot of people lived through that. So I'm assuming is that what happened to your farm as well? Or like when did your farm stop doing dairy?
In 2008.
Oh, so you guys lasted a long time.
Mm-hmm. My dad actually passed away in 2008. In an accident on the farm, and that's what ended the dairy business.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
No, it took it even darker versus going down the...
Well, it's, this is life. This is...
Yeah.
With farmers, I mean, there's actually been a few accidents with tractors on farms right out in my neighborhood. So it's unfortunate, but that's how it is. That's the situation.
Did you help your dad farm up until 2008?
So I would help my dad farm. I would help him with field work here and there. Of course, I was involved with doing other things, and that was his business. But I grew up around that lifestyle of someone who was very dedicated to their farm, that work ethic of, milking the cows twice a day.
Yeah.
Taking care of the animals and keeping up with equipment, working in the field, everything.
Yeah, you're bringing back flashbacks.
Isn't it?
Yeah, we had a beef farm, which you probably know if you know my brother.
Uh-huh.
But we did 4-H and had to take care of the animals and had chores to do. And I couldn't get out of it fast enough, honestly. As soon as I could, I moved to town and I have not moved back. But I do think now I'm ready. If a small plot of land or a small cabin approached itself to me, I would be ready to move back out. But growing up as a teenager, it's really hard. It's very isolating. And I had big dreams and all the things. And you did too, as well. After high school, you took on a whole nother career.
That's right.
And what was that?
Well, I moved to Madison and I went to art school, went to graphic design school, and I worked as a designer for a few years. And yeah, it's the same thing as what you're talking about. You're on a farm, but you're dreaming of something else. And Madison was a great move for me. I actually opened a skateboard shop after I was done with college, and I produced my own line of skateboards and clothing. And I had a brick and mortar store that evolved into a indoor skateboard park. And so we're kind of fostering a community of skateboarding that was happening at the time. This was in the early 2000s. There was kind of a boom of skateboarding happening then. Skateboard parks were being built all over the place. And the skateboard shop in every area was kind of the home base for the skateboard scene and all that was happening with that. So I was happy to foster that scene. The shop was in Reedsburg. It was right along the Baraboo River.
Now you're a painter. So what happened between art school and the skate shop?
Sure.
And okay, I'm going to take one step back and I'm going to ask you, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I think when I was a kid, I think I knew that I wanted to be a artist. I wanted to be a painter and I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're living in the future right now.
Right. You did all those things.
Mm-hmm. I think I did. I think I saw that path very clearly. When I was in art school, I envisioned myself. I went to art school at MATC, which is now rebranded as Madison College. And at that time, when I was graduating, I thought in maybe 10 years, I'll be back at the university studying art education. So I could be a teacher. And that did happen about 10 years later. And so that kind of came full circle. After the skateboard shop flooded in 2008 when the Baraboo River rose, it was a devastating flood.
Is that when like the theater got hit too? Okay.
So the theater flooded in 2008 and then again in 2018. And then that's when they finally demolished the theater in Reedsburg. But when the skateboard shop flooded, the ramps were, I had this huge warehouse space with a indoor half pipe and indoor, like everything to skateboard on. And it was a very cool place. We would hold contests there. I mean, that meant you could skateboard all year round and I would teach skateboarding lessons and have skateboard competitions there. And of course that worked well with having all of the skateboards for sale, and we filmed videos. We went all over the country filming videos, and it was a very creative thing to do. And then in 2008, when it flooded, I looked out back at the Baraboo River, and I had a French easel from art school loaded with all of the oil paints. And I went behind my flooded skateboard park and I did a painting of the Baraboo River. And then I did a painting the next day, and I just started to paint after that. I think that, I had been all over the place filming skateboard videos with all of my friends and acquaintance, everybody. And I'd done a lot of that kind of stuff. I was in the middle of my 20s and I thought, well, I'll just start painting now. And so that's kind of what I did.
That's such an artist thing to say.
It is.
I have friends that are like, how did you start a photography business? Like, I don't know. One day I just started. And of course you did. But yeah, that's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
Your creative mind you don't know where it's going to go or what's going to happen, but you just do it. And
it feels good. When I painted the river, I painted kind of the bridge and the muddy water and the banks of the river. And after, I didn't know really what I was doing. I had taken oil painting class, but I had talked to my painting teacher, and he said, I said, what would happen if I did a painting every day for a year? And he said, well, you'd get really good at painting. So that was kind of in my head of just do it. And after a little bit, after I had forgotten that I didn't know what I was doing and I was just in the act of painting it, it felt good. So I kept doing it.
So every day you just got up and painted the Baraboo River or something else, or
some different things. Yeah. Scenes of Reedsburg. I would attach my French easel to the back of my bicycle and ride my bicycle around and find something that looked interesting. Subject matter, I didn't know what I was looking for. Painted a lot of fields with hay bales in the field and farm scenes of downtown in Reedsburg, that kind of thing.
And then what? So you start painting every day, and now you have paint. Now you have an easel.
Right. Now I have paint all over all my clothes.
Now you have paint all over your clothes, and when do you call yourself a painter?
Well, I don't, when do you do that? What is, we have there's a lot that anybody who is a creative person goes through, because you have all of these beliefs. You know, you have the things that people have told you your whole life, and the things that are in culture that are fed to you about being an artist. You know, you can't be an artist because then you're not going to make any money. You know, these kind of beliefs or whatever it is. I think that because I was out with my easel, I would show my paintings to anybody who would look at them. You know, I had a built-in audience, anybody who was interested in.
Right, because people would see you,
People
probably
would see me.
stop and
Yeah. And I was painting so much outdoors that people would see me 3 or 4 times, and finally they would come and talk to me, and I would show them what I was working on. And at that time, you know, I didn't have my style yet. I was just painting in a very, I was just painting. I hadn't found my way with a paintbrush yet, but I would show people what I was doing. I had a show that same year in 2008 at the Woolen Mill Gallery in Reedsburg, which is a really nice, excellent gallery. And I think that I probably thought that I was a painter then. I can't really remember.
once you had your first show.
Right. Maybe it was then. Yeah.
And when was that? What year was
2008.
it's the same year as wow.
The flood.
2008 was so that's been almost 18 years, something like that, 17 years.
Almost, yeah. It's been the better part of 2 decades.
Where do you see yourself going in the future?
Yeah, that was a big chapter. I think that life is about these kind of 20-year chapters, maybe. So I have a daughter who will turn 2 in June, and my big project, just like becoming a painter was a big project, is raising a child now.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful chapter. It's something to look forward to, and it's something to be excited about.
Yeah, it is exciting. My youngest is he'll be 18. So I'm on the kind of it's like, oh, what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Right. You've been in these chapters.
I've been in the chapters, and now I don't know what the next chapter is either. Another topic that I think is really important to touch upon, and I haven't had other artists on the show, I'm trying to think, but there's a huge difference between picking up a paintbrush and painting, because it brings me joy, and I'm trying to bring more joy into my world, and doing it as a profession. So how do you stay motivated and creative? Because it's such a internal process, and it requires so much energy to take something from inside and present it to the world. That's
Sure.
what creativity is. So how do you keep going?
Well, yeah, I like to think about it from the scientific standpoint. I just want to react to what you said earlier about the next chapter. And life just gives us so many chances and so many more opportunities. You know, like you're saying that your son is 18, he'll be off to his next chapter in his life, and you'll be doing your next thing. And we get so many chances and opportunities to do all of these things in life. And I think that that's wonderful that you're getting to that place. I think that, you know, the road is wide open for you and for him. And that's a special thing. It's limitless what you can do.
It's all in here, right? That's the limit.
Right. That's where we can limit ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the subject of creativity, you know, it's fun to think about it in a couple different ways. One way is the scientific way, like what happens in our bodies when we are creative. And then there's kind of the more side of it about how we're feeling or what is our intuition telling us. So scientifically, when we create, when I'm cleaning my brushes and I'm setting up my palette and I'm getting ready to go out and paint, and any artist will tell you this, you kind of feel this resistance that's pushing back against you moving forward and going out and creating.
Yes.
Every artist knows that very well. People will say things like the walk to the studio is the longest walk of the day, or this is, you know, in our world today, people will just start scrolling instead of doing their creative work. And really, actually, in our bodies, there's a chemical that's being released. It's norepinephrine, and it's kind of a chemical that it's a stress response. And so we're having an actual chemical released into our system that is making it difficult for us to get your things ready to start creating.
So this resistance is an actual real resistance.
There's an actual resistance and a resistance of our thoughts as well, I think.
Yeah.
The good news is that if you can experience that enough times, and if you can kind of coach yourself and think that the expectation is that I'm going to have this norepinephrine released into my body, and I know that once I start creating, the resistance will subside. Okay. So we also work on a system where when we start to create, and it can only take 5 or 10 minutes, your body will start to release either dopamine or serotonin, depending on what hour of the day you're creating in. And that will kind of take over and give you that sort of put you into a flow state where you can continue to create. So that's when the hours just sort of fly by and you're just involved in doing your work.
For a while, I was super interested in flow state and how you get in it. And I get in it when I'm learning something. You know, that's like my biggest thing. It's like, whoa, when I first learned Premiere Pro, which is a video editing software, I would get so engrossed in learning and then the creation of the video and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I was, hours would go by and I couldn't speak. I come downstairs and I love that feeling though. And then, but there is that stress of it too. There's like the feeling is nothing. There's nothing comparable to that flow feeling other than.
Yeah. And then it's so hard. It's hard because you're so excited and then you can't get to sleep at night because your mind is just racing. And then you finally do get to sleep and you wake up the next day and you're, maybe you didn't get great sleep because you were so excited about what you were creating and what.
So the norepinephrine, is that meant to, if we go back to caveman days, then is that meant to keep us in the tribe, in the circle so that we don't wander off? What's the purpose of it?
I think you're right. I think it does go back to our, evolution into being humans. If there was a threat, we had to be ready to fight a wild animal or whatever it was. And so we had to have this stress response that created this it's kind of an on edge feeling. It's like you're waiting for a disaster to happen or something.
Yeah.
And so it isn't.
And it's just, you're just trying to get out and make it.
We're just trying to go paint. I know it's so silly. But we can't, we are human beings. And so we spiritually there, or creatively, there's resistance as well. And there just is for doing anything creative that you follow your emotions. We're emotional people. And I think you can kind of preload your attitude or you can take your emotion to a higher state and then, by using the emotional guidance scale or something like that, you can take your emotion from feeling depressed or down low. You can just sit with that for a moment and think about trying to feel content. And if you can feel content in a moment instead of feeling depleted because you were up late thinking about how great it is to be editing video on Premiere and now you're tired and you're trying to drink coffee to wake up for the day. And if you can just say to yourself, this cup of coffee the aroma of this coffee is so nice. And, it's snowing outside, but it's warm where I am right here. And I'm feeling kind of content and, and you keep going and all of a sudden you're feeling wonderful and you're feeling these higher emotions. Then it's possible to pick yourself up and get out and create again. That's something that is learned through, just through, I think, age, because when I was younger, I would sit with those lower emotions and you almost end up creating from a place of fear or depletion or something like that.
Yeah. And
that's where burnout can happen, is when your batteries are already worn out and then you try to create something on top of it and then you can't go on from there.
Yeah. And it's funny, as you say, you try to create something when you're low, because what you end up creating is more low stuff, low vibration, low energy things. And I'm only saying that because I do it. Like, oh, I got to create content today. Yeah. I really, there's a million other things you want to do versus taking the time. I find when I meditate, even for 15 minutes, I can switch. But then again, it's like you have to pause, allow, breathe, all these things versus just like get it done. And we live in a world where that get it done thing is not my world, not your world probably, but we feel the effects of that. that energy.
We do. Yeah. How we're just taught to we're supposed to be, well, any job you are supposed to perform, and you're supposed to work 8 hours a day. And then we bring that into our creative pursuits, and you think, well, I'm supposed to upload every so often, and I'm supposed to create every so often. What you really want to do is take your dog to the dog park, because you know that after you throw the ball for Jake for 45 minutes, your vibration is going to raise.
Yeah.
And every cell in your body is going to be kind of spinning, and then you're going to be ready to do the creative work.
And when you do the creative work, then you get the creative response. But it's not that, I'm going to say it's the different chemicals running through our body that make that so difficult, because it sounds so easy.
It does.
But then when you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
there's this resistance to doing things that you enjoy and love. So we talked beforehand, before we started the video, that you're into self-help books.
Yeah.
I love self-help books too. And I love YouTube for self-help. What are some of your favorite books?
I think one of the first ones I ever read was the Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass.
Yeah.
And I think it was written just for me. The way that it was written.
Yeah.
I think so.
What was it? What was in it that just...
Right off the bat, she's talking about her story of when she decided that she was going to change her life. And she's living in a garage. She's driving a vehicle to go to professional appointments, and pieces of her vehicle are falling off on the side of the road on the way there. And I'm thinking to myself, this is me right now. I'm in this, I'm doing all these things. I'm super creative, but the programming that has I was at a level of believing that in order to be creative, these are the kind of things that the lifestyle that you were going to have to lead.
You were actually talking about that a little bit ago, the starving artist mindset or programming. So this is where you were at.
That's where I was.
That in order to be creative, my car needs to be falling apart. I'm not worthy anything better.
Right.
Than what you see. So then what happened?
Well, I think that book had really given some good advice on how to change that. And one thing that she talks about is just a big part of it is that you're just going to make a decision. I'm going to live my life on my terms. I'm going to live in a creative way. And the things that I do are going to point in that direction. So now I'm not just going to go out and with every painting, I'm going to try to create something that is the best quality painting that I can do. And I'm going to not put paintings online with, in an unprofessional way. I'm going to have good images of my art. I'm going to build a website that has prices on it so that people can find me and they can connect with my art in that way. I'm going to make it easy for people to figure out who I am and why this is the best thing why painting is the best thing in the world for me. And you make that decision. And then when you make that decision, a lot of things probably will go wrong. The universe will push back, resistance will set in, and you still go on and you go against that resistance. And finally, you get a little closer and a little closer because you're just pointing your efforts in the right direction.
What are some of the things that get you off course?
Well,
because you have the best of intentions.
Yeah.
And you're doing the things, like, what are some of the things that you're just like, oh crap,
right
now, and you got to reset because it's like your old programming wants to come in. And
yeah, for me, I think it was money, because it was like, we're even taught, not even as creative people, but you're not supposed to want to have any money. You're supposed to just be happy with what you have, and it's not going to be a lot, and you're going to have to scrimp and save, and you probably won't be able to pay the bills, and if you want a new car, you'll probably have to have a payment for a long, all these things. It's just, we're just, as good people, we're just not supposed to want money. We're supposed to stay, I would sell, first of all, my prices for my paintings had to raise considerably because I was at that time giving work away for too inexpensive.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I did it too.
Yeah. In the past, you did it.
In the past, I did it.
But we were young people then, and we were learning all this.
Yeah.
All these things. So yeah, just presenting the work in a way that people could connect with it, raising prices. And I don't have a lot of blocks in my creativity now, being that I'm a father of a young child. I paint when she takes a nap, so it's kind of like she lets me know when it's time for me to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's when I create now.
You're on her schedule.
That's right. Yeah, I've met my match.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. I think that with the You Are a Badass, when I first heard the name and I read the first few pages, this was a few years ago, probably 2020-ish. When did the book come out? Do you know?
I read it in 2019, so I think
Okay.
it was around then.
Yeah. And then I listened to her recently again, and then I picked up the book at the library and it was sitting over there. That's why I keep looking over there. I enjoy how she talks about that you have to make a choice, that you don't want to live like that anymore. And drawing that line in the sand, it seems so easy, but it's the hardest thing to draw that line in the sand and say, okay, doesn't matter if it's your work, your life, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm going to do it a different way. How do you find support for your life now? Who supports you? Are you still just reading? And what are you reading right now? And yeah, kind of talk about that.
Yeah, support system. Well, I have my partner, Corbin. She is a wonderful support person of people. And I think that, part of it is that one thing that, going back to Jen Sincero, is that it's just boring to have those limiting beliefs and things like that. It's so boring to live your life in a lower level than what you could be achieving. It's like, if I try to make work that is exciting and so that people will not be able to ignore it when they see it,
I love that.
And if you're gonna do work, like for me, that means right now I'm pushing forward and I'm doing work that's larger than I've done in the past. It's generally a little bit larger and it's a little bit more bold and more colorful and more contrast and all these things. And I could stay where I was 8 years ago with painting, but that's boring to stick in the same place. You want to keep reinventing and redefining who you are as an artist. And that's the more exciting path for me to go down. Books that I'm reading lately, I'm rereading the book by The Inside Out Revolution. And he's another self-help author with a podcast. And his idea is that, our thoughts are kind of what shapes our reality. Two people living in the same situations could have two very different realities just from how they're thinking about that situation.
Yeah.
So, and it's not written specifically for authors, but, the self-help books, they energize me and it just gets those creative ideas flowing, I think. Because you start to go inside and you start to feel kind of good about different things. And when you can do that, I think that you're going.
I 100% agree. Right now I'm reading a book on compassion. It's a Buddhist book on compassion. And it is going inward and figuring it all out so that wake up in the morning or whatever you're going to do and you do have that energy and something new to think about that's going to inspire more creativity. And yeah, it just goes. I used to, for a while, I was like, I'm done with self-help. I'm done with therapy. I'm done with all of it. And then it's like, oh no, wait a minute. Like all that stuff is actually really good for artists. Like we need that constant figuring stuff out.
We do. And the more that we can go inside and feel what it's like to be in our bodies and feel the inner universe, and all those things just support that so much. Like, if you were going to give yourself a artist's afternoon just to be by yourself, what would be your favorite thing to do?
I would paint.
Yeah.
Write.
Yeah.
Yeah. I write every day, but I just haven't, I have all the paint stuff in my closet. I just don't pick it up.
What would you do if you were like, you had to have an afternoon and you weren't going to paint, you were just going to do something like just by yourself?
Well, can I take my dog?
You can take it.
I would go on a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
And what can make you feel more creative than going on a hike?
Right. There's nothing better than the fresh air and all of that stuff. Yeah.
I know, just around here, every time that you walk up to the top of the West Bluff Trail or somewhere, it's so beautiful, and we don't do it enough. And when you get up there, you're like, God, I should do this every day.
Yeah. For a while, I was going a few times a week.
That's amazing.
I mean, this was a few years ago, because you get to the top and it was winter and you're the only one up at Devil's Doorway.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? I'm the only one here right now, and the sun's setting, and
Yeah.
it's just insane.
You get to have that moment with nature and
Yeah. And the universe and everything just comes together.
right. I know. And it's like, how can you be the only one there? How does everybody not know how good that moment is right then, and you're enjoying it? Yeah. I think whatever it is, as a skateboarder for my whole life, that's something that I would do if I had some time to myself, and I'll have more time to myself, sometime in the future, but young child. And
Yeah.
it's like,
You had your time.
right. I had a lot of time. I know. And that is kind of why I think that now I can put it together in a way, and I can, if I want to raise my vibration or something like that, go skateboarding for an hour. It will, if I'm feeling a little burnt out, or I'm feeling like just connecting in the way that I should be, I can recognize that in myself, say, this doesn't mean that you're not the world's biggest failure in this moment. You're just a little low energy. Why don't you go take your skateboard and go skate around town? I'm talking about just skating through the parking lots and the alleyways and the way that I used to do when I was a kid, and just reconnect with that. All of a sudden your heart rate is up, you're breathing, you're in the sunshine, and you pretty soon you're just back, and the ideas start coming to you again.
But here we sit. I'm joking. I have a longboard that I really got into longboarding.
Actually?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's been, again, a couple of years. Since I moved in here, I made so many really hard life choices to get into this space.
It's beautiful. Look at this. It's so expansive that you have this beautiful space.
Yeah. And so since I've been here, it's been almost 3 years, I have really just kind of sunk it in, but I've never had a place that I've felt safe in. I went from my parents' house to my first marriage, which was chaotic and crazy, to my second marriage, which wasn't as chaotic and crazy, but chaotic and crazy. So I just was like moving from person to person and space to space. And all of these things that I learned how to do, the hiking, the longboarding, the painting, the writing, all that stuff was what I learned so I could cope with these stressful situations, and to be able to get up in the morning, have my coffee, and write in multiple journals. It's like I'm finally living my life. But it's important also to remember those things that do make you happy, like going on the hikes and the longboarding. Because, longboarding along the Baraboo River is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that great?
And it's like right over there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
The river walk and all the hills in Baraboo.
Yeah.
Well, you're a very strong person. And you're talking about these creative pursuits as your way of coping. That's a lot better than drinking or something worse.
Well, I used to do that too, but
Me too.
I quit doing that.
Yeah.
Because it was what I thought it was doing. It was actually doing the opposite.
Mm-hmm. I know. I used to think that I would, I would put a beer in my backpack when I was going out to paint, and I would think, this is how I'm gonna get into the mood. But it does the opposite, just like you're saying. It kind of cuts you off from the source of your creativity. It does the opposite. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, you go up and you think that that's a good thing, but then you go down, and if you can just find that creative source, like meditation, I've said for years, is medicine to me.
Absolutely.
And you can find that for free, and then it doesn't take anything from you. You're not going to need a nap. Well, you might need a nap. Sometimes I nap after meditation, but it's totally different than alcohol.
It does provide non-sleep deep rest in the same way that a nap would be sleeping. It does refresh you to just pause and go inward in that way, I think. It's so funny. All these things, it's like, I think that we're actually the same age, and I think that I'm 44.
I'm 44.
Yeah, see, we're the same age. And we, it just all starts at 40, doesn't it? Because before this, you do all this destructive stuff and you're not really sure, and you don't. But now, listen, we're talking about meditating and and do
Source.
yeah,
All fun.
right. And all those things it starts in the second part of your life, in the second big chapter,
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone says the 40s are your best, but
right?
I've been pleasantly surprised so far, I guess. 40s have been.
Yeah. It's definitely not over the hill. It's like just letting go of a lot of the stuff that doesn't serve you anymore and shedding all of that.
But also keeping it in a way. You get to keep all the good stuff and shed all the bad stuff. And yeah, there's just multiple opportunities. Like you said at the beginning, there's multiple chapters on multiple levels. And I do believe our frequency, how we look at the world, does change exactly what we're seeing right now. Like you and I could be having a very different experience right now if you would have came in grumpy or, or whatever, but you came in happy and excited, and I'm happy and excited, and we're having a great conversation.
Yes, we are. It is nice. Yeah, it does. It shapes us. Did you know that the word vibration was, have you read Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah, I have like 4 copies.
Sure. Right. Okay. So you know how Napoleon Hill is saying, in the whole thing, he's kind of saying you have to read between the lines, and there's this secret thing that is hidden in this. Like he kind of is alluding to this real message that he's not actually going to tell you, but you're supposed to just keep rereading the book and then you'll understand it.
Yeah.
The word vibration was edited out of that book shortly after it was originally published, and it was in there like 40 times or something like that. And that is the true vibration, or the true lesson in that book is that you have to have you have to be in a good mood, and then you can create your world from that place.
Yeah. I think I might have heard that at one point, but I forgot about it.
It's in another book. I think it was in some Abraham Hicks book or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. She's all about.
Right.
I mean, they all are.
Yeah.
They're all about that. And, I was always thinking, well, for a few years, I'm like, okay, what is this vibration of money?
Sure.
This unattainable vibration of money. And then I realized that if I'm constantly seeking this money vibration, that I'm missing the point. And the actual point is just to enjoy your life. And whatever happens, happens. And it's all about just maintaining that higher level.
Mm-hmm. Maintain the higher level, and money is energy. It's literally called currency. As creative people, if we are enjoying our lives and we're magnetic and people like to see us and they like to experience our work, I mean, that's going to create a environment where they're comfortable with spending money. Money is going to come in and it's going to flow back out.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you hold on to it too tight.
Right. You can't hold on to it too tight. It's like, I was reading a book and it was talking about sometimes if someone is making you very sad, like you're so sad because somebody is doing something, but the water in the river is flowing by. And the minute that you take a 5-gallon pail and you fill it up with that water, then it's just stagnant and it's no longer flowing. It's better to just let things flow, and rather than try and save it in a bucket or something like that.
It's like caged bird.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Let the caged bird fly.
Yeah, and let money be what it is, I guess, and let it that money flow.
Yeah, and we talked too about raising our prices, and for me, when I raised my prices, it was actually about giving up control, because for a long time, in order for me to feel like people liked me, I wanted to be cheap.
Right, exactly.
So, and that was a way I was controlling people. Like, it sounds weird to say, but and then the people I was getting in, they didn't respect me because I wasn't respecting the process either. So a few years ago, when I was going through my second divorce and I knew I needed an apartment, and I needed to raise my rates. Yeah. And
you have to have a livable wage to flourish and be excited about being an artist.
So I was forced to, and now it's so fun to see the people that come in and they're excited to work with me because I'm excited to work with them, and it's a mutual collaboration.
Yeah, you're there. You're living.
I have a few times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the next dream is, but yeah.
It's gonna.
One of them right now.
We're just driving through a snowstorm. We can only see a little bit in front of the car. Yeah. We're gonna get to the next dream.
Yeah. I don't know what the next dream is, but
it's gonna be great.
I think so. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Can you tell me and the people that are listening how they can find you, how they can view your work, and if you have any shows coming up?
Yeah, I'm in a show right now at the UW Platteville. I'm in the faculty show, which is on campus at Platteville. So I'm teaching right now at the university here in Baraboo. I'm teaching painting and drawing, and I have a YouTube channel, Kyle Martin Paintings. My partner Corbin produces the videos. I go out with a GoPro and have weekly episodes of painting in plein air. I have two websites. I have, if they would Google search Kyle Martin Paintings, those would both come up. And if they're interested in classes or anything like that, they could just send me an email and I could add them to my email newsletter. And that's how I get the information out about my workshops and other opportunities.
Yeah, that's cool that you do workshops.
It is a lot of fun. I do workshops for kids, teens, adults, everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
This is fantastic.
It was great.